Okay, welcome again. Today's topic, today's Achron is the Chasam Sofer, Rav Moshe Sofer. We'll speak about his biography. I want to focus a little bit about the Chasam Sofer as a Talmid, as a student, and then as a Rebbe. And then we'll learn together selections of a letter to one of his Talmidim, which appears in the Shilas Chuvas Chasam Sofer. Now, what I'm going to be doing is sharing a PowerPoint presentation. Once again, at any time, if you want to, you can unmute yourself and make a comment or use chat now. Okay. Now, this discussion is going to be based on the 6th volume of the Shilas Chuvas Chasam Sofer, Tshuva Nun Tet 59. And it's one of these letters where we're going to be uncovering what the letter really was through the answer to the letter. He doesn't publish the letter itself. But first, a little bit about the Chasam Sofer. This is the way the classic version of the Chasam Sofer looks on the Sha'ar Blat, the page that is the opening of the Chasam Sofer. Let's see if enlarge. Now, there are 2 pictures of the Chasam Sofer that are available. As far as I know, these are real pictures of the Chasam Sofer. This one that we're looking at right now has a whole story behind it. Chasam Sofer had a Talmid, Rabbi Socher Ber Frank, and he wanted to marry off a child. He didn't have the money to marry off a child. He was extremely talented artistically, and he painted a picture of the Chasam Sofer. He had a lithograph made by somebody named Joseph Krihuber, and he sold that lithograph in order to be able to support himself and be able to pay for his wedding. Chasam Sofer heard about it, and so he was not excited. So the Chasam Sofer asked him, "What's going on? You're selling my picture all over the place." He didn't talk to the Chasam Sofer first about doing it, and he said, I just imagine all those people that I wouldn't be able to face. I would hide my face from all these people. So the Chasam Sofer replied, because you didn't want to hide your face, so you exposed my face. So this ends up being, as far as we know, a real reproduction of the way the Chasam Sofer looks. This actually was auctioned off for, as far as I know, over $10,000. This is another portrait of the Chasam Sofer, and this was made by this artist, Joseph Edward August von Gillern, who was a well-known German painter and portraitist of the Biedermeier period, who was particularly active in Silesia, a heavily Jewish region of Central Europe. I got that from the auction page. And this was auctioned off, if I'm not mistaken, for $37,000. So I assume those people checked out. But the one problem is they don't look exactly the same, but I think there is a likeness between the two. Whatever the case, these are the two pictures of the Chasam Sofer that are available. This one is much more common, much more well-known. Here are the brass tacks about the Chasam Sofer's life. He was born in 1762, passed away in 1839. So this is if we can connect it up with the Noda B'Yehuda, and the Noda B'Yehuda passed away in 1793. So he's that next generation. He's a contemporary with Rabbi Akiva Eger. Not only is he a contemporary with Rabbi Eger, we'll find out that he married the widow daughter of Rabbi Akiva Eger. He's also a contemporary with the beginnings of the Hasidic movement. You see 1762, so that's the end of the 1700s is when Hasidus was starting to take off. There's a tshuva about Nusach, davening Nusach Sfard. That is a very interesting tshuva. Now, his parents, there's a story about his mother especially. His father, Reb Shmuel Bar Moshe, who was descended from Reb Shimon of Frankfurt, who compiled the Yalkut Shimoni, and is descended from Rashi. So once again, we have one of these great Gedolei Achronim, the Noda B'Yehuda, also was descended from Rashi. I'll mention that when I sent out that shir about the Noda B'Yehuda, so two of the people that listened to the shir were descendants of the Noda B'Yehuda relatively directly. One of them sent me a family tree which described how the Noda B'Yehuda was descended from Rashi. Now, his mother was referred to as Rezel the Tzadikis. She was the daughter of a great Makubal, and there's a legend about her that the Rav of Frankfurt then was Rav Abush Chassid, who was a big tzaddik and a big Talmid Chacham, and she was in labor Friday afternoon. And if I'm not mistaken, it was in Tishrei, and she asked that they delay Kabbalah Shabbos, which would have been a little bit before Shabbos. She asked that they delay Kabbalah Shabbos until after the birth, and Rav Abush Chassid agreed, and he said it was worth it for this boy that is going to illuminate the people of Israel, and that's taken to be kind of a prophetic remark. Again, he was the descendant of these two great tzaddikim. Rav Shmuel Bar Moshe himself was a great person, and Rezel the Tzadikis. Now, my information is based on a biography written by the Noda B'Yehuda's grandson, Chatam Meshulash. So this is where that information is coming in from. Plus, the Noda B'Yehuda writes a lot of autobiographical information. There's a lot of autobiographical information you can derive from his Shilas and Shuvas. Now, unquestionably, his Rav Mufak, the main Rebbe of the Chasam Sofer, was Rav Noson Adler. Noson Adler was a great Talmid Chacham and a great Mekubal, and a very unique and independent individual. In fact, he began in Frankfurt. The Rav of Frankfurt was Rav Pinchas Horowitz, who is the author of the Hafla. He's the two great brothers, Rav Shmelki of Nikolsburg and Rav Pinchas Horowitz. Shmelki of Nikolsburg had a great yeshiva and was the Rav of Nikolsburg. He was the Rav of a number of the early great Hasidic leaders, including Rav Levi Yitzchak Berditchev and Rav Moshe Leib Misasov. I don't know who else, but the Hafla was his brother, And he's called the Hafla after his very well accepted Sefer on Maseches Ksuvos. Now, Rav Noson Adler was not the Rav of Frankfurt. Rav Pinchas Horowitz was, but Rav Pinchas Horowitz was revered him. However, Rav Noson Adler had some unique practices. One of them was that he davened Nusach Sfard. And he was asked, and he had a separate minyan where he would do this. He was asked to stop that, which he did. But then Rav Noson Adler left the town for Baskovich, and the Chasam Sofer went along with him. There is another Rebbe of the Chasam Sofer that he went to for 2 years. In a different town, I forgot his name. I'm sorry, but the main Rebbe is from Noson Adler, and he was also a Talmid of Rabbi Pinchas Horowitz, and also this other Rebbe. Now, his family life. There's an essay that I saw, or a paper that I saw, which pointed out how there was all sorts of problems with, if you will, fertility in the Chasam Sofer's world. His first wife, Sarah, was childless. She was a widow. She was an orphan and married off by her brother. And I think she was a little older than the Chasam Sofer himself. After she passed away, he remarried. And his second wife, both of them were named Sarah, but his second wife, he had 10 children. Some of them, 3 of them, as far as I know, died in childhood. But those are the great Chasam Sofer dynasty comes from those children, and there were extremely high-profile great Talmidei Chacham Tzaddik. Now, the Chasam Sofer was a Rav in Dreisnitz. He was a Rav in Mattersdorf, but he's most well known for being a Rav in Pressburg, where he served for decades, and he also opened up a well-known yeshiva. Let's see. Yeah, I want to share a story with you. This is told by Rabbi Abraham Twersky in his book Not Just Stories. And it says so much about the Chasam Sofer. Chasam Sofer, when he came into a town, and as far as I know, I'm assuming this is Dreisnitz, and he, as a Rav, was making sure everything was mesudar. Again, if you do the arithmetic. So the Chasam Sofer lived from 1762 to 1839. That's 38 plus 39, which is 77 years. And he did an amazing amount. Part of it was because he was a child prodigy, meaning he started extremely early. He worked extremely hard. Meaning he had stretches of time where we learned, he had like 3 24-hour stretches where he just learned during his week. But back to the story. So when he was a Rav in this place, which I assume is Dreisnitz, so he found out that there was a mill that was open on Shabbos. So he went to the family, and the family, the way it's recorded in the story, had the family named Tokef. Now, Tokef means tough, strong. And sure enough, this family was that type of a family, a very rich, powerful family in the town. However, the father who owned the business was somewhat traditional, but the son had already broken with tradition. And the son was very much in control there. And he had the mill running on Shabbos. Now, Chasam Sofer called him to the Beis Din, and he didn't come. Called him again to the Beis Din, didn't come. Called him again to the Beis Din, didn't come. And then the Chasam Sofer went himself to the person. He met them, and he confronted them about the mill being open on Shabbos. Now, the Chasam Sofer is known as a great tzaddik, but he's also known as a serious authority figure. So on the one hand, he stood up for his principles, and he's in many ways the model Rav and Rosh Yeshiva and Posek and author. And he's one of the greats in all of those realms in Jewish history. He was an extremely nice and humble person, but also a very powerful personality. So on the one hand, he had the humility to go to this family himself, even though they refused to come to the Rav, which in that time was considered a strong affront. So the family said, well, we have this shtar where we sold off part to a goy. So when it's running on Shabbos, it's really the goys. The Chasam Sofer looked over the shtar, and he realized that it was totally ineffective and not a legitimate shtar. And the son, more or less was scoffing at this whole thing. Anyways, the mill remained operating on Shabbos, and the Chasam Sofer really put this family in chayrim. And so, even though they had been a powerful family, but the community was a very Torah observant community, and they followed the chayrim. Now, this itself was a very strong thing to do. However, then a fire broke out in the mill on Shabbos, and it destroyed a lot of the Jewish quarter. The buildings were of wood, and of course destroyed the mill. However, afterwards, there were accusations that this Toka family lit the fire themselves in order to get insurance money, which is the kind of thing that appears often in jokes, like arson for insurance money. But they were really accused of this. There was a trial, and the Chasam Sofer was called as a character witness. So the Chasam Sofer was called to the witness stand, and he was asked by the judge, do you believe that this is something that this person was able to do? So the Chasam Sofer got up, and he was careful not to look at this Tokef fellow, and he said, I know the family, and I know they've broken with tradition. However, I know that they are in general moral people, and that doing something like this, setting up a fire that endangers the lives of so many in order to gain insurance money, is beneath their moral standards, and they would not have done such a thing. And this fellow was acquitted. So the Chasam Sofer, on the one hand, had put this fellow in cherem. On the other hand, he, in all honesty, felt that this was not something that they would have done, and they got him off the hook. Anyways, afterwards, the Chasam Sofer gave a whole drasha encouraging the people to rebuild the city, rebuild the town. And they said, now, it just so happened that at that time, the Chasam Sofer was called to a larger community, Mattersdorf. And they said, that's easy for you to say, you're going to be in Mattersdorf. And the Chasam Sofer said, I'm not leaving for Mattersdorf until we rebuild the city. And sure enough, the Chasam Sofer became not only the great Rosh Yeshiva and the great Talmid Chacham and the great Makublas, we'll find out, but also the great organizer, and he organized and directed the rebuilding of the town. that you can find in Not Just Stories by Rav Abraham Twersky. Now, I want to just add two things. Number one, which I already mentioned, he was one of the great poskim of the period of the Achronim. He was a Rav. He was the central leader of Hungarian Torah Jewry, Rosh Hashiva, Darshan, and Makubal, and Kabbalist, student of a Kabbalist, student of Rav Noson Adler. And among the hundreds of Talmidim of his yeshiva were the leaders of Hungarian Jewry. His descendants to this day are great Rabbanim and Poskim. The Rav of Erloy, if you go to Chatam in Yerushalayim, on Rachel Imenu Street, so there's the large Erloy yeshiva, and he is one of the elders of the rabbinic world. Now, I want to illustrate one thing. Again, we could literally spend a year just on the Chasam Sofer. I want to devote this year and next year to the Chasam Sofer, but I just want to share how the Chasam Sofer was a great Talmid. Rav Noson Adler himself was a great Talmid, and the Chasam Sofer was zoche to many, many great Talmidim, and he was a great, devoted, loving Rav. So he says, now Rav Noson Adler was accepted to be the Rav of Baskovitz in Merin, and it was very far away. So he didn't want to bring his young Talmud with him, and so when everybody left, the town took leave of Rav Noson Adler when he went away to be the Rav of Baskovitz. So he said, "Does anybody have anything that they would like from me?" And he went to different places, different people, and he looked to the Chasam Sofer, and the Chasam Sofer said, "I would like to see the Rav in Baskovitz. That's what I would like. In other words, I would like to join the Rav there." And he went home, and then he said to himself, the Chasam Sofer said to himself, "Wait a second, I didn't say B'li Neder. So when I said that I want to see my Rav in Baskovitz, I have to do it." And the Shalach HaKadosh is also Horowitz. The great Makubal and Posek of that, I think he's 2 generations before. So he said, he was the one apparently who said that a person should always say B'li Neder to make sure that he doesn't create Nidorim over the things that he took on himself. So he summoned Avsho B'Kapola, Rutzach Rei Rabba L'Baskowitz. So he ran after his Rav to Baskowitz. When he got there, so the Rav reached Baskowitz, and he sees his beloved Talmud, Moshe Sofer, the Chasam Sofer, the young Chasam Sofer there, and he was struck. And how did you get here? And he said, Ein ze ella, let me annotate. Ein ze ella shekafta lo aderech. Umizera godel ahavas uchukas talmido elav. Then he saw how much his Talmud loved him. He took him along with him to Baskowitz. From then on, he was his right hand. And he served him like a trusty servant. And he said, he said to his Talmid, I was a great Talmud to my Rebbe. I chopped wood and draw water for him. And that stood for me. I forgot what's on the next page. But one of the things that's on this page is a story about how Rav Noson Adler himself said what a great Talmud he was for his Rebbe. It was winter, and him and his Rebbe were traveling on the way. They were very, very hungry, and they got some food from their provisions, but he wanted the Rebbe to be able to do Netilas Yadayim. So he went and he got this snow, and he melted the snow in his hands for his Rebbe to be able to do Netilas Yadayim. Now, I would like to do this tshuva together. This particular tshuva responsum, it just says Shalom lecha v'shalom la'ozrecha haTalmid havatik sheyichya, because there's going to be a little bit of musar in this. I picked this one. I'll tell you why I picked this tshuva. There are many famous tshuvas of the Chasam Sofer. I picked this because I said, something. I want to go through. I want to see which Chasam Sofers Rav Asher Weiss quotes in the Minchas Asher. And so I noted that he had a special feature of a section of this particular tshuva in a footnote in an article about Parshas Toldos. So that's why I got that. That's where I got this. Then I realized that this particular tshuva is not the classic responsum with a halachic shaila and a discussion of halachic shaila, the source material, the issues, how it applies, etc. What other rabbis hold. This is a response to a Talmid's letter, and you have to figure out what the Talmud was probably saying by going backwards. But one of the things you see about this is some of what makes up a Torah personality. So I chose this tshuva because of its the moral lessons that come out of it. So he says, "Ha'atartani bidvarecha." Now, that word, that root, ayin tav reish, involves is the word that is used for extremely intense prayer. The prayer that Yitzchak prayed in order to be able to merit a child. Vayatar, Hatartani probably means you challenged me. You spoke. You gave me a great need to respond through what you said. And the vicissitudes, the way things play themselves out in your life, that I was not excited about. Now, v'dad b'niva talmidi, know my child, my Talmid, sheyichya. Ki kol yamai isi mitzdayer al mikrazeh. My whole life I was worried about one pasuk. That's the pasuk of v'yisem nikim mi Hashem Yisrael. You should be clean vis-a-vis God and Israel. Now, that's a pasuk that in context is talking about the Bnei Gad and the Bnei Reuven. Moshe Rabbeinu told them that you're going to have to go and be the ones that lead the war when Israel conquers the land, even though you're going to be on the other side of the Jordan River. You are to cross the Jordan, fight the wars against the 31 kings, along with Yoshua, and only then return back. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, along with all the different things that he said, V'yisem nikim mi Hashem Yisrael, and you will thereby be clean before God and before Israel. You will participate in the conquering of the land of Israel, which is God's land and which is God's command. Plus, Israel will not think that you were deserting them. Now, he says the following: these two sides. V'yisem nikim. I want to read his beautiful language. V'yisem nikim mi Hashem Yisrael, and this is about reputation. Ushtei chovos elu, these two obligations, nikius mi Hashem Yisbarach, being clean before Hashem, may be blessed, ve'anikius mi Yisrael amo, and being clean, having a positive reputation and integrity vis-a-vis Israel, his nation. Heim shnei rochvim tzmadim al gabenu. These are the two riders on our backs. If you can imagine that we're horses and there are two riders together on our back. So one is the obligation to be clean before God and the obligation to be clean before Israel. It's so much easier to be clean before God than it is to be clean before people. People think all sorts of strange thoughts, meaning about us. Now, this is a Talmudic expression for women who are elderly women who are spinning by the light of the moon and telling about this one and telling about this one and gossiping. So he borrows that expression. And the punishment for having a negative reputation in the eyes of Israel is much more serious. Adler mispar. It's impossible to give it a number. From somebody who isn't Yotzei Yedei Shemayim, and that's the Gemara. There's a Gemara that he quotes that talks about how serious Chilul Hashem is. Chilul Hashem is something the Rambam lists. It comes from the end of Gemara Yoma that you only get kapara for through death. Chilul Hashem, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says Echad Shogeg ve'Echad Mezid b'Chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem is an extremely, extremely serious thing, and our reputation in the eyes of others is what, God forbid, can create a Chilul Hashem. How far does it go? So look at this Gemara. Heichidami Chilul Hashem Amarav Kigon Ana. With regards to me, Ishakilna Bistra Bitavcha V'lo Yahivna Dami Laltu. If I were to take meat from the butcher without paying immediately, meaning if I were to buy on credit, that itself would be a Chilul Hashem. So the standards become extremely high for Talmidei Chachamim. So the Chasam Sofer is talking to his Talmid. Now again, apparently there was something in this letter that had to do with people gossiping about someone. That was a Talmid Chacham. Now, you get a little bit of the sense of the contemporary world then. Uvavonosenu Rabim, with our great sins, meaning, unfortunately, Shachiach b'divrei abrios, people will say things like, Lamdan kazeh yaseh davar zeh. Such a lamdan would do such a thing. V'hu shogar b'fiyam, and it's something that is a common expression. V'afilu al cheshad svara ba'alma. And even if there's only some, reason to suspect something. V'hashta inami hayaosa alamdan oseh kashura. Now, apparently he's talking about a real individual. We're trying to reconstruct the letter backwards. But if that lamdan was doing things properly, v'yatzai yedei shamayim b'chol yecholto b'cheka efshari, and he was yotzei yedei shamayim, he was fulfilling his obligations halachically as much as possible. Ela shaloni's har, but he wasn't careful. At shetobo elu shosei shechar, but those people that are drinking beer were mistaken about him and thought he did something wrong. The asau manginasam, and they made him the object of their jokes, literally their songs. Harehu kvar nilkad b'mitzudasam alzeh. B'mitzudasam. He's already caught in their net. Alzeh yidvu kol adavim. Everybody should be sad about this. V'akasav saveach, and the pasuk screams, Hirkavta and Noshla Roshenu, we have put a man upon our head. So it is very hard to keep a positive reputation, and the reason is because people talk. Says the Chasam Sofer, keeping V'yisem nikim mi'Hashem Yisrael is nearly impossible to fulfill properly. As the pasuk says in Koheles, Ki Adam, and the Chasam Sofer says, I think this might be what this pasuk is referring to. Ki Adam ein tzaddik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yachta. There's no person who's a tzaddik in the world and does good and doesn't sin, because how can you not sin in the sense of having your reputation? Your reputation is dependent on people that talk about all sorts of things. And even if they're wrong, it still can inadvertently create this Chilul Hashem. Now, apparently the story was an extremely complicated one, and there was some kind of friction between somebody who was trying to cheat somebody. So, again, we don't have the tshuva itself. We don't have the shaila. However, we don't have the original letter. But the messages that appear, the three main messages that appear in this letter about keeping a good reputation, about dealing with wily people, and later on about truthfulness and integrity are worthwhile. It's worthwhile even though we don't know the whole story behind this. I want to read this next section together. However, Chazal have said, "Im navar tisparar v'mikesh tispatal." This means that people that are crooked people themselves, so you can struggle with them. However, you know that which I'm accustomed to always say. Ein Yaakov shelo yifgenu Lavan. There's no Yaakov that is not harmed by some Lavan. Ume'atei Lavan sheyifgeu b'hem Yaakov. And there's very few Lavans that are harmed by a Yaakov. Shmor zeh, keep this, remember this, ki hu emes, because it's the truth. Uv'chon advarim, check out these things. V'tereim amitim, you'll see that they're true. Uritzoni, what do I mean by that? Ki bris krusa, now that's a Talmudic expression for, it's something that definitely is the case. Literally, there's a covenant made about this. Kol Talmid Chacham v'tzadik hamechune Yaakov, every Talmid Chacham and Tzadik, who is called Yaakov, yeshlo mitzirim kenegdo, there are people that are driving him crazy, there are people that are troubling him. Hamechunim Lavan, and they're referred to as Lavan. Amnam. There are very few of these Rishoim asher yimtzu negdam mi shehu acheim baramos ki Yaakov neged Lavan. There's very few of them that are able to have an opponent amongst the rabbinic world, amongst the Torah world, that was as strong as Yaakov was vis-a-vis Lavan. What did Yaakov said? What did Yaakov say? I'm as clever as you, Lavan. However, there are very few Lavans that have a Yaakov as their nemesis. The heavy Yudea should know. Ki harbe pamim, now this is autobiographical. Harbe pamim hafachti bahem umehem umehamonam. Ve'amarti lehishamer mehem. Ve'lasos ha'akov lemishor. I many times I had my struggles with them and groups of them, and I wanted to be careful about them, and I wanted to be able to deal with these problems. And I wanted to run away from the smallest of their craftiness. And I stumbled in a big way. Not only Amei Aretz, not only the unlearned and the masses, the populace, Elalom de Torah, those who learn Torah, Vafilu Rabbanim, and even Rabbanim, Kol she'ein dover emes bilvavo, somebody who is not truthful, Velo hayosher ve'atzedek merkavo, and who doesn't ride upon the chariot of uprightness and justice, harchek darchecha mimenu. Stay away from him. Haser raglecha min hasivo. Remove your feet from his path. Ve'ainyan hazer asher terbo And this matter that you're dealing with right now, he tells his beloved Talmid, kablo ba'ahava, accept it with love. Ve'al kol gal ve'gal, and on each and every wave, tenaneh roshcha, ride with the waves, move your head, v'sofa kavod lavo, in the end, honor will come to you, ki yoshia Hashem am krov, for God will save his nation. Now, he quotes a very interesting thing. Now, you don't have it in here, it's in the original. Somebody quoted something in the name of Rabbi Noson Adler. And he mentioned it in the letter to the Chasam Sofer. This Talmid mentioned that they quoted the Chasam Sofer as saying such and such. And the Chasam Sofer says, listen, I never heard my Rebbe say such a thing. However, it could have been that the person relied on a statement of Chazal, which is, if you want to hang yourself on a high tree. What is that? That is a kind of a clever folk saying that quote something. Now, don't do this at home. Quote something in the name of somebody great if you need it to be accepted. So said the Chasam Sofer, it could be whoever you heard saying what that quote that you made in the name of Rabbi Noson Adler. It could be that the Rabbi Noson Adler, they didn't hear it from Rabbi Noson Adler, but they wanted to quote it in the name of somebody who was so esteemed, in order to make sure that it would be accepted. I never heard such a thing from him, but it could be they just wanted to make sure that the words were accepted. Now, that is the statement of Chazal, and now these are the very strong words that I saw quoted in Rav Asher Revised, and that's the reason why I brought this whole thing. Sorry, before this, I just want to quote. He said, have a look in the book Amtachas Sefarim of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, and you'll see amazing things there. So I never heard of the Sefer. And I was curious what amazing things you're going to hear there. So sure enough, that's a book that Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Now again, this opens up a whole room of topics. But Rabbi Yaakov Emden has a book about the authorship of the Zohar, and in this book, as far as I understood, he posits that a core of the Zohar is from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, but there are parts in the Zohar that are attributed to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai based on this saying that they wanted the things to be accepted, so they quoted Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, that's his. So if you're interested in that topic, I am definitely not equipped to state anything. I don't understand. I have not researched the whole topic of the authorship of the Zohar. Of course, it is the vast majority of tradition says that it was authored by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I'm sure this is well discussed in the literature, but one piece of the puzzle is Rav Yaakov Emden's Sefer. Now, so says the Chasam Sofer. Vanita meil gufa davar shehitiru Chazal lechazev b'toras emes. I wonder about the very thing itself that Chazal permitted lying concerning the true Torah. Umasha amru Chazal mutar l'shanos mipnei darkei hashalom, and concerning what Chazal said that it's mutar to alter from the truth for the sake of peace, in the ways of peace. Lo yadas Ramban zal noach mizeh al pi hamuban hapashut. The Ramban was was not willing to take this at face value. Have a look at what he says on the pasuk Ani Zakanti. Now, this is from the source of that statement that Mutar L'Shanos Mipnei HaSholom is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, who Sarah said, Achrei velosi haisali edna v'adoni zakein. After I was, so to speak, worn out, I was renewed, and my master, meaning Avram Avinu, is elderly. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he talked to Avram, he said, why is Sarah saying, Ha'af umnam eleid v'ani zakanti? Well, I give birth and I'm old. And Hashem left out the part of what she said to Avram Avinu, about Avram Avinu, concerning Avram Avinu, and hence Chazal's statement of Mutar L'Shanos Mipnei HaSholom. One can alter, just like Hashem didn't repeat in total what Sarah said, only half of it. So also, Mutar L'Shanos, one can alter from the whole truth for the sake of peace. והמגן אברהם במוסריו, סימן קנ"ז, החליט דווקא לשעבר ולא להבא. It is only permitted with regards to things going on that went on in the past, as opposed to things with regards to the future. Ayin Sham, have a look at the Magen Avram. Ve'aklal, and the principle is kushta koi. Truthfulness stands. Now, the next thing is a curious and interesting topic. There are two expressions that rabbis use in writing tshuvas. And this Talmud had issues with both of them. One of them is the expression when they talk about a person who is mitzudaso prusa over a certain place, that his net is spread over a certain area. The other way people talk about their location is a rabbi will write, Choneh po kehal kadosh, that I dwell in this particular community. So those are two things that you'll find in Shilas and Tshuvas and in rabbinic writings. So this Talmud had some issues with that. Again, he got some musar from the Talmud, got some musar from the Chasam Sofer, because he was criticizing people who themselves were great tzaddikim. And so first, the Chasam Sofer gives his Talmud a little bit of criticism about being critical of great people. But then he says, my Rebbeim didn't write this. V'gam lokas of chona po kal kodosh hanal. That expression also they didn't use. That comes from Moshe Rabbeinu, shekasav alav b'shas matan Torah, asher hu choneh sham har Elokim, that he dwells in the mountain of God. V'nagu chachamim silsul be'atzmam lichdov ken al atzmam. And so people had this, they prided themselves to speak of themselves in a similar way. Use that expression, choneh. My rabbis didn't write that way. Maybe they didn't want to make themselves connected with a particular place. The place shouldn't be used to honor the person should honor the place. They also didn't write, he mentions, they didn't write about where they were born. Maybe my Rabbeim, Rav Noson, Adler, Rav Pinchas Horowitz, they didn't want to connect themselves with a particular siddur in Chutz La'aretz. With regards to this last thing, I am kechala bar chamra legabe rabosai. I am like vinegar, son of wine. That's a Talmudic expression for somebody who's not as great as his predecessors. With regards to my Rabbeim, umatzinu Noson abavli Rav Chana Bagdata. We did find in Chazal that we have people that are connected with their particular places. Anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you tonight. The tshuva, the Chasam Sofer. Through the tshuva, you get an understanding of You get a feeling the kind of struggles he went through. You get a feeling of how important integrity and honesty is for him, how important Chilul Hashem is, how tragic or terrible Chilul Hashem is, and then a couple extra expressions. Anyways, God willing, next time I want to do something from the Drushos Chasam Sofer. I was considering doing one of two possibilities. Either the Chasam Sofer's, some of the things the Chasam Sofer said about the land of Israel, about Eretz Yisrael, or one of his drashas around the high holidays. We'll see what I'll come up with. That's what I wanted to share with you tonight.